picture. Hay string didn't do. Your hay string didn't do. It made the bale, it did not. It either broke the string or something happened.
everybody. It's Danny and Wanda back from Deepsouth Homestead over at Pecan Grove. Guys, we have successfully baled our first field of hay here. You know, growing up as a young man, I loaded a lot of hay. But I was always in the field picking them up, throwing them on the trailers. I was never operating any of the equipment. The older gentlemen did that. We were just the muscle back then. And I tried frantically this year to get someone to come bale my hay here at Pecan Grove, and nobody was interested. And so after sitting around thinking about it, I told Wanda, I said, you know what, up front it may be a little expensive, but I think we're gonna go see if we can't find our own equipment. Now, there's no sense in buying new equipment, I told her. I said, that's just not necessary. I think if we bought older stuff in good shape, that we would be just as good. And if we did it in square bales, I can handle it. And I can move it around. And we don't have enough field area right now for round bales, mostly just square bales. So God was good to us. He gave us not only one square baler, like this one here, but he gave us two of them, one for parts, and we have a video about that. Then I ran across a guy with a hay rake that goes with this type baler. And were they new? No. Do they work? Yeah. Now, is it a learning curve for me? Yes, because this piece of equipment has multiple adjustments on it. And pulling it behind that Kubota, I've had to stop and make tons of adjustments. Before we even pulled it, I had to change the tongue height and all this kind of stuff. Then I had to adjust the wheel heights over here. I mean, everything was an adjustment. How tight the bales was coming out. The Kubota 2501 pulled it with absolutely no problem whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I had to cut the RPM back. I couldn't run it at PTO RPM. I had to cut it way back because PTO RPM was just too much for this baler. So, dropping the PTO speed back and going a little bit slower worked out fantastic, guys. Now, we had a little bit of problem with one of the knotters, kept giving us a little bit of problem, but Wanda rode around with me with the Ranger, and if we saw a bale that didn't get tied on one side just right, she would stop me, and we would tie that bale ourselves on one side. So, you know, we don't always have to have new stuff. Us the homesteaders, we got to do the best that we can do most of the time. Now, this particular field right here, we got 35 bales out of it all together. We took 8 over to Deepsouth Homestead and put in the high tunnel over there that we had for hay. Early this morning. We baled them yesterday afternoon to kind of do a test run to work out some of the kinks so that when we got ready to do it today, we could rock and roll with it. So that's where we're at, guys. I mean, do what you got to do to make it happen and buy what you can afford, because I really wasn't sure when I went to buying stuff how this was all going to pan out, because I have other fields that I could cut. Now, what I learned, I didn't have time to set the cub up with the sickle bar on it. I would have got more hay if I'd have done that, but I cut it with a bush hog, and some of the grass is too fine for the baler to pick up because of the bush hog. But it still in all, it did a pretty good job picking it up, because my bush hog is set up to cut, not to chop stuff up real fine. So next year we'll probably have to have the cub set up with the sickle bar, and we'll probably cut, hopefully we're gonna get to cut our red clover hay. And now that we've got this done, I'm gonna take the, I'm gonna show y'all, I'm gonna show you the old man's way to get that hay out of this field without breaking your back. You know, the older you get, you work smarter, not harder. So let's go get the hay out of the field. Well, guys, we got the hay over here in the high tone. This was originally supposed to have been a hay barn. We had a different kind of plastic to go on the outside of it that we never really used. After talking to Grower Solutions, we come up with that covering to go over it to keep the heat out of it so that we wouldn't have to worry about the hay getting too hot. But at the time, food production was a big issue, so we decided to go with the clear plastic. We still have the other, and now it's back to what it was originally supposed to be. And yes, some of it's sitting on the ground, but guys, this thing ain't nothing but a dust bed on the inside, so this hay is not going to hurt sitting on the ground, I'll assure you of that. The rest of it's sitting up on boards. This will be the first that gets fed right here. I think we ended up, did you count, Ms. Wanda, how many we ended up with?
I think it was 35.
35 bales, which ain't too bad for our first year of production off of that little 2 acre, 3 acre field, whatever it is right there. You know, it wasn't the grass wasn't real deep, you know, a lot of it, but a lot of it was real deep in. But we're thankful to have our 35 bales. That'll help keep our cows fed just a little bit longer this winter with no sprayed hay. Thank you guys from Deepsouth Homestead.